everyone. Welcome to Real Deal Disney, giving you the real talk of all things Disney. I'm your host, Michelle, and today today I have with me, there we go, two lovely guests who are going to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Ayla.
And I'm Zach.
We're going to be talking about something we talk about a lot in our group of Disney friends. Because we go to the parks a lot and we notice their flaws. We talk about if we ran Disney, because we think we would do a whole lot better than what's currently happening. It's obviously obviously because we go to the parks a lot. We know what's not working, know what is working, and why they don't continue to like push that. But yeah, just to kind of start this off, I was wondering if you could change only one thing about Disney, one thing at all. And like whether it be an attraction, whether it be a restaurant, not adding something, but like change one thing that's in the parks right now. And you still have to maintain the rules, like nothing like trademarked like marbles and stuff. But yeah.
Well, going back to my rant a couple weeks ago, I would not have closed the Great Movie Ride. Instead, I would have, I will admit that the ride was rough and, in fact, somewhat down on its days. However, my answer to that would not have been shutting it down entirely. Maybe revamping some of the animatronics, maybe adding in some new movie scenes, because the only thing that ever changed for decent enough reasoning was the montage at the end. But think about how awesome it would be to see scenes from some of our newer favorite movies while you're going through with the audio animatronics. Like, no one really knows that. I don't even remember what it's called at the moment. Like, at the beginning, they had all the girls on the cake.
The Footlight Parade.
Yes, the Footlight Parade. Like, yes, it's a classic movie. However, I'm sure we could have stuck something like a lot newer and more relevant that is just as historically, cinematically significant, but better known.
Can I just add one thing to that? No Frozen.
Exactly.
Frozen was in the final montage, wasn't it?
Yeah, but no like Frozen animatronic.
Well, they redid it,
I don't
yes.
think that they should have been doing animated animatronics. Like, it should have been like real people animatronics.
Yes.
So no Frozen, because it wouldn't have happened.
I mean, it would stick with the theme where all the movies that they show are live action movies.
The only non-live action movie they show is Fantasia, which
Is
obviously
a
is
Disney movie.
And also
Yes.
they don't have an animatronic of Mickey. That would be kind of creepy. They have it on a screen, and it was really cool. I keep referring to it in the present tense, but it's dead now.
Yes. Now, Footlight Parade, speaking of that scene, actually, it used to move.
Yeah.
For a year or less.
Yeah, because
when it opened.
like
it was very sad.
it was like, wouldn't it like spray water everywhere and break down?
Well, the problem was that it kept spraying water into the track area that they didn't want
Didn't
to
it
happen.
flood
and
one
it
time?
flooded,
Yep.
Yeah.
It flooded that area of the attraction, and those trackless vehicles can't walk across water
Because they
normally.
walk and they have feet.
And
Honestly, that'd be kind of cool to have
so
like a...
it did actually spin in multi-leveled tier, and it had shot water out, and the Footlight girls, they danced, they swayed, and
Their answer
was
to that
very
was
cool.
putting a veil over
Yes.
it and hoping no one would notice that it didn't move.
Well, I thought when I was a kid, I thought it moved for some
Well,
reason.
it used to, like, sometimes if they were feeling really, really ambitious, they would turn on the spinning part, but not the water part.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen it spin.
Yeah, I've seen it
never
spin. I
seen
have it on
have
film.
water.
Yeah.
But it didn't spin a lot because if it broke down, there was nothing they could do about it except shutting down the whole ride to fix it.
Yeah.
So they didn't like doing that because it was a high ticketed attraction. Why'd you delete it?
Obviously,
Especially
though,
when
like,
half the park is gone.
I'm just wondering though, because like most of these movies that were in the Great Movie Ride impacted film in a really positive way. So, what historic film would you add just to kind of like branch it all together?
Well, the question, that's a really bad question to ask me because I'm not a movie person. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not super into movies,
Yeah.
but I appreciated, like, what they did. But, like, I don't know. Someone help me here. I don't know movies that
Do
well.
you have
but,
an
like,
idea, Zach?
Well, I'm taking a film class right now about cinema. So I've
Okay.
watched a lot of old movies here lately
Mm-hmm.
that go back into some of the Great Movie Ride movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never seen half of the movies before this semester. And so I started taking these classes, and I said, well, I'm going to buy these movies. So I bought Casablanca.
Casablanca's such a good movie.
I bought I bought some Westerns, some different things from each section of the Great Movie
Yeah.
Ride. And I see why they're there, because those are great movies. But at the same time, there's a lot of guests who come into Disney's Hollywood Studios that are not well versed in those movies, especially from international standpoint. A lot of international guests.
Ooh.
So I think we need to have some. If you were to have the Great Movie Ride, I think it's important that you would bring in some modern movies while
I just
also
had a good
mixing in with
thought.
the originals. Like
I just had a good
Wizard
thought
of Oz
based
is
on
big,
that.
so
So like you were saying how like a lot of these movies have like influenced like things now.
Yeah.
Well, what if like you took like in the narration you talked about the older movies and you had a newer movie as an example of something that was influenced by this, like, okay, so the gangster shootout scene. No idea what movie that was from.
Pulp.
I thought that
No.
was
That was not from Pulp
That's
Fiction.
from
Bugsy Malone.
Public Enemy.
Yes. Okay.
Public
Oh,
Enemy.
the
So-
first one.
Yeah.
Okay.
What you could do there, because Public Enemy was a big influencer in the gangster movie, what you could have done is you could have had another gangster movie, like, I don't know, is The Godfather a gangster movie?
I've never seen it.
Okay. Well,
Really bad.
We
but
have
I've never
such
seen
movie
that.
buffs right
Whatever.
here, guys.
maybe like pick a more modern gangster
Yes,
movie
that people know of.
that people know of, clearly not us, but that most people will know of. Stick it there, and during that, talk about Public Enemy and what an influence it was on this film that you're now experiencing.
Mhm.
Same thing for the Western. Like, that would be really cool to go in and see, like, a current Western. I don't know any.
Well,
I
Western
think
had
the
a
last one-
era. Yeah, Western was in
Western
an
was an
era.
era.
Yeah.
But like, I think the newest one was the one that Disney came out with, Lone Ranger.
That was a
They
shitty movie.
Redid it.
That
But
was
like,
a
that's-
shitty movie with whitewashing.
That was the newest Western I've seen in a while, so I don't really know
I
if
mean,
you
the
consider
only
it a
thing-
Western, but
No, it's a shitty movie
know.
because whitewashing, and whitewashing is evil.
Yeah. It had an influence from around like the 1800s.
Yeah, it was
I
from
think-
The Lone Ranger was it was a radio show, and then it was a cartoon back in the days of Saturday morning cartoons. My dad used to watch it, so he like commented on that.
okay.
So it
Well, I
was
never knew.
yeah, it was a cartoon.
I just knew it was kind of a modern Western, like
Rango.
After, like,
Do you remember Rango? That's not Disney, but do you remember that one?
yes, I remember
That
that
movie
one.
was weird.
That's another weird one. Like it's
He's
just
a
normal
lizard
for Johnny Depp to
Western.
be in weird movies, I guess.
Yeah,
Oh,
I didn't like
yeah.
that they had. I
I
didn't
know that movie. I know what you're talking about. I didn't see it.
But like other movies in the Great Movie Ride, Wizard of Oz is still a classic.
Yeah,
Everybody
oh, yeah.
knows what Wizard of Oz is.
One thing, like, if you say
So-
this name, are people going to remember? Are people going to remember certain scenes?
Yeah, I don't remember, like, the only ones that I remember, like, I can go through the ride and, like, name what the scenes were, but the only movies I can name are the ones I know.
Mhm.
And I don't know a lot of them because I'm 20 years old, and when I was, like, a kid, like, I didn't love that. Like, oh my god, I hated the scene with the alien, but, like, that fits because Alien is such a famous franchise. It's still popping out movies. Let's talk about cash grabs. It's still popping out movies. Everyone knows what Alien is, right? Like,
Yeah.
like-
yeah, I know of it.
Yeah.
I've never
decided
seen
to
it.
watch
seen it.
I
'cause
just,
the cover on the DVD looks really scary.
It-
so I
it
don't
is-
know, I just
and
not-
everyone knows the tagline, like, in space,
in space, no one can hear you scream. And of
Yeah.
course, when you rode the ride and you got into the alien world, the freaking alarm started blaring. It'd be like self-destruct mode. Yeah, caution.
That was a
Caution.
good
Stay inside
impression.
your
Oh my
vehicle.
god.
Yeah, and it was
That was
terrifying.
really good, Zach. Oh my god.
Caution, stay inside your vehicle.
But yeah,
This area
but,
you are
like-
entering extremely dangerous.
as much as I didn't love that area fit because
Yeah,
it was
good.
a movie that everyone knew. Indiana Jones, movie franchise everyone knows. They're still popping those out. Like,
What did you think of Tarzan?
Tarzan was an interesting case
Interesting.
because, okay, so I don't know. The way I grew up definitely influenced the way that I viewed that scene. So little tiny backstory on Ayla time. My dad is a huge Tarzan buff. His father, my grandfather, read like all 27 of the original Edgar Rice Burroughs novels when he
Oh.
was in jail, or something. No, he was at like war in World War II, but he was kind of a dick, so he ended up in the brig, and his like cell was next to the library cart. and they had like all the Tarzan books. I swear to God, this is true.
Okay.
So my dad's dad told my dad all about the books, and my dad grew up reading the books, and he was actually around when that particular Tarzan movie came out. So he would always like talk about it, and I would always be like, on the Great Movie Ride. And so like that definitely influenced the way that I view that. But I definitely think that it's interesting that Disney has that there and doesn't mention their own Tarzan adaptation at all.
I know, right?
Like, you'd think that somewhere there would have been a throwaway line. And also, Disney redid this movie in 1980-something, 90-something, with music by Phil Collins. You know, just toss it in there.
Mhm.
What about you, Zach? What is one thing that you would change about the parks?
I probably wouldn't have built Camp Mini Mickey in Animal Kingdom.
At all?
At all.
No,
I
we're
would
ta-
have built Beastly Kingdom.
We're talking about, like, changing it now, though.
Now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you dump Pandora for Beastly Kingdom?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, wait, was that
10 minutes into Pandora opening, it's dead.
Yes.
was that
It's like-
wasn't that the one like the whole mythos thing was?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's why there's a
mythological
dragon.
creatures.
Yeah.
That's why there's a
That's
dragon.
why the
in
dragon is the centerpiece of the logo
Yeah.
for Animal Kingdom.
So you would
Change it to a
actually-
banshee now.
Why
Yes.
didn't that lift off?
It just
like-
fell through.
Animal
didn't it?
Kingdom was a failure, I
It
guess,
was too
in
ambitious,
Disney's eyes
right?
when
It
it,
was like
opened.
too ambitious.
Well, I don't think it caught as much as they wanted it to. They thought it was going to be a magnificent thing. There was going to be people there all the time. It's going to be like Magic Kingdom. No, it didn't happen. So they said, well, we're going to just put that one on the shelf. We'll come back to it later. And they never did.
until
they
they
had
met
already-
Pandora.
Yeah, they ended up at Pandora because it was a big ticket franchise. It created a mythical world like you all were talking about last week that wants people to come into it. And it was their chance to get in on the Harry Potter franchise without actually being on Harry Potter.
What?
So-
I need you to elaborate on
All right,
that.
so what it is like they had the chance to do Harry Potter. Disney was offered the chance first.
What?
Yeah, it was. You didn't know that?
No.
I would have thought you knew that. Yeah.
Yes.
Like years before Universal even
J.K.
got
Rowling
wind of
came
it,
to
J.K.
Disney.
Rowling went to Disney and Disney said no.
They said, we don't want to do this.
But I think that's reasonable because I don't
Yeah.
think that Harry Potter could have fit anywhere in those parks.
No.
At the time,
Like
no.
as
Well, I mean, also the content
now,
of
yeah.
Harry Potter is too severe.
Disney and J.K. Rowling both want full creative control is the problem.
Yeah, that's the
And
thing.
J.K. Rowling would not have ceded her control to Disney, and Disney would not have had allowed J.K. Rowling as much like leg room with managing what was going to be where.
Exactly.
So it worked out for the better because Harry Potter World is pretty great. It saved Universal from the brink of death. Like
Yeah,
anyway.
it helps. But like that was their chance they passed up, and they've regretted it since they've seen how
And
big
they thought
Universal has
Pandora
jumped
would
back
be
up.
their survivor.
Well, I guess so because it was such a big ticket movie
Yeah,
when it came out. It
numerically,
was like
it's the highest grossing movie ever, isn't it?
yes,
Of
it
all
still
time.
is, still
Yep.
is. And it's amazing to look at it like that, and you're like, and you look at it and you're like, I don't really know about that because it's a really long movie. I've only
Yeah.
watched it a few times.
It's
I like
Pocahontas
it, but
with aliens.
yeah. so
I
so
had
they
to-
created
These
a
blue
world,
men cannot be trusted.
and they wanted to
No.
get on that with. So Disney
No, it's
wanted
the
to try. it.
Earthlings can't be trusted.
Oh
because
yeah.
The blue people are the good guys. They call them the
These-
sky people. That's what they call them.
These-
I've seen this.
True.
I've
Yes.
seen this movie too many times. Disclaimer: I had to watch it in my AP Environmental Science class. Thanks, Miss Brown.
I like Avatar actually.
These
It's a
humans
good
cannot
film.
be trusted.
I mean,
And
like
it's an interesting land, yes, but at the same time, I don't feel like it fits in.
it's
Animal
tinier
Kingdom.
than I thought it would be.
Exactly. As long as they've worked on it, I was like,
They
oh, this
made
is
it
gonna
look
be
like
massive.
it was gonna be
No, it's
huge.
not.
It's like
yeah, I mean, I put it in
You can
here
totally
that-
do it in a half hour or less.
I mean,
If
providing
you didn't
don't
have to
ride the
ride, if you don't
rides,
ride the
but-
rides. If you were able to walk on each of the attractions, you could do the whole thing in
So
a
what would
half
you
hour.
put in Beastly Kingdom?
Yeah.
Well, they had included originally a attraction based on Bald Mountain from Fantasia, and it
The
was
thing with
supposed to
Chernabog
have
in it?
Yeah, and it was supposed to be, I think, a roller coaster. It's been a while since I looked at it, but it was going to have this giant dark tower in it,
Mhm.
and it has a dragon on the top of it.
Okay.
And that's where the dragon came from. And then
so
that
is
was
that
supposed
how
to be
they were
like
gonna
the,
have their Magic Kingdom influence? Kind of have like that
Yes.
castle,
they're
but
gonna
have the
a dark,
Chernabog.
a dark version.
Well, it'd be cool because
and-
if they added that, they could go along with the villains.
Oh yeah, have your whole
world.
villain section.
Yeah, the villains.
And then another part of it was
Lame.
going to be mythological creatures, like unicorns, like the stuff from Fantasia. You see
Ooh, I
the
can read
horse
this.
people and
I pulled it
things.
up.
So
I'll read it.
yeah.
The section was to feature realms surrounding good and evil creatures. The good realm would have been home to an attraction called Quest of the Unicorn, which would have been a mythological maze leading to the grotto where the unicorn lived. The good realm would also have featured Fantasia Gardens, an attraction based on the movie Fantasia, that would have been a musical boat ride that takes you through the animal scenes of the movie. There was a typo. The idea was similar to the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh, would have featured hippos and crocodiles from Dance of the Hippos, along with pegasi, fawns, and centaurs from Pastoral. On the evil side, On the evil side would be feature... Oh my god, this is riddled with typos. I apologize. On the evil side would feature an attraction called Dragon's Tower, ruled by a greedy, fire-breathing dragon that housed a treasure in the tower's chambers. The attraction would also involve a group of bats threatening to take the dragon's thrones and riches. The bats would enlist the guests' help and take them on a wild roller coaster to do so.
That seems really complex.
The climax, similar to other rides, would involve an encounter with the dragon himself, resulting in a near-charred train of guests. So basically, they took the concept of that and they made Everest on the other side of the park.
Yes. Well, they actually kind of took the concepts of everything and kind of made everything else. So if you think about like the golf course they made, it's all about Fantasia.
Yeah,
The
that
features
was...
are kind of very, very similar. It's called Fantasia Gardens. I mean, how obvious. But like they've taken that idea and just spread it everywhere else. And then it's rumored that the Imagineers who worked on the concept for Beastly Kingdom were very mad when Disney canceled their idea after they'd worked a lot on it.
I mean, I believe it. I'd
And
be
so they went
mad.
to Universal Creative and they built Islands of Adventure theme park at Universal.
Universal's
And-
just getting everything.
And
Sorry.
so like the tower in Universal, the
shocked.
lighthouse, is
What?
based off the castle that they had, the tower they'd built for the dragon to sit on.
I'm just
Oh, the
so
lighthouse you walk
shocked
past
right
at the
now.
beginning?
Mhm.
I mean, like, okay, but, like, in fairness to Universal, like, Universal... Okay, this is the example that I usually use. It's a really weird example, so bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys been to the Gringotts attraction?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so when you're in the actual bank with the goblins and you get to the back, you pass these pillars. And they look like they're made of stone, quote unquote. But, like, when you knock on them, they're just hollow plastic. And the first time I ever went on it, I turned to my best friend, Katrina, and we said to each other, if Disney made this, it would be, like, at least a better approximation of a stone pillar. So the difference between Disney and Universal is the attention to detail. As much as, like, yes, they could have taken the concepts. Like, have any of you guys been on Poseidon's Fury?
Yes. I went on that.
I didn't want to go on.
All right,
it.
so here's a little brief summary of it. Basically, it points a giant middle finger at classical Greek mythology, and you follow this really irresponsible, like, archaeologist, and you end up in a duel with possibly Poseidon, but also possibly Hades, and also possibly a fire demon. I don't remember. It's been a while. I'm a little iffy on the details. It's basically a walking attraction. Like,
I
you
was
walk
very
from room to room.
displeased with that.
Sometimes there are benches. Most of the time you're just standing. Anyway, it is like
Very awkward.
huge and sprawling, and if Disney had made it, you'd actually like it.
Yeah.
But, like, because it's an interesting concept. I mean, I'm never in love when you shit on Greek mythology, but, like, at least it could have been something good. But Universal has this weird tendency to skimp. So, like,
Yep.
except
Except with Harry Potter World, apparently.
no, they
Barely.
still skimp.
Well, but not
Like-
as much
like-
as they could.
There are still moments when you're, like, walking around Harry Potter World and you turn and you look at something and the immersion immediately breaks
Fair.
because you're like, that's so fake. Like, an example that I always notice is at Weasley's Wizards Wheezes. They recreated the Fred/George with the hat. He, like, puts it on his head, he lifts the hat, and he puts it back on his head, he lifts it again, there's a bunny, and then it disappears, and, like, it goes back and forth. And you can tell that the bunny just pops out of his head. Like, you can hear it sometimes. It's, like, not subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not as like
Detail oriented.
detail oriented with ensuring that you are immersed into their world,
Mm-hmm.
because their parks really aren't designed to be that way, but at the same time they tried to do that with Islands of Adventure and failed epically. But their attractions are interesting
We're just
in their
shaking
own
our
way.
heads because we know.
Yeah, because like you know that certain attractions at Universal are like,
I'd like
wow,
to point
this
out
feels like more like a glamorized amusement park, and I know they're trying to go with the theme park aspect like Disney did, but
Right.
at the same time,
I'd like to
really
point out that their current advertising
but-
campaign is have a mature vacation here, which is essentially saying that Disney's like too childish to be enjoyable as a family vacation. And I hate it, and it makes me angry.
Yes, I hate that too. I hate that everyone
Okay.
figures that Universal is for grown-ups and Disney's for kids
As much
because
as,
of the way their marketing is.
yeah, it's like as much as we want to say that like it's like more mature. Yes, some of the roller coasters do fancier things, but they have the same number of roller coasters, and Universal Studios is very much veering into the virtual reality thing. Like every single
Simulations.
somehow this episode has
Yes.
become let's shit on Universal. But like they tore down Dueling Dragons. I'm aware it's not called that anymore. They tore down Dueling Dragons to build a simulator ride. Dueling Dragons was one of
Wait,
their
they already tore it down?
it's gone.
It's
They
gone.
announced they were going to close it, and like a week and a half later they did.
Yeah, literally, my dad was.
That was
he's
such-
a,
I
or
loved
he,
that
he was a
ride.
mechanic for a while, and he was working on. He was working at Universal briefly there, and literally a week after they were already half done with the roller coaster, taking it down.
Yeah,
He took a picture of it and he said, "Look this."
they
And I'm like,
announced it,
"It's already
and
half
they were
gone."
like, "It's gone immediately." Like it was, and they tore down one of their most beloved roller coasters to build another virtual reality experience.
There's
And
only like
like
4 of those.
especially considering that that's in islands. Like it used to be that like you went to islands for the practical rides and you went to Universal for the VR. But now they're just both going to be like have you guys been on Reign of Kong? Like
I hate
that ride is
that.
shit because it's all VR. You don't know what's going on. There's stuff
a
happening on
circle.
both sides. You're like, what is the plot of this
And
ride?
the queue is
You
scary.
see you see Kong, and then the ride's just over.
That's it. You're
and,
"Whoa,
like-
was that all?"
Like,
Yep, get off.
The Kong.
I waited 60
He's
minutes
not
for
even
that.
good of an animatronic.
and he's the best. He's the cream of the crop for Universal animatronics. I remember when they premiered Kong, they were like, "This is the best animatronic we have ever created." Here's a fun fact. Do you guys know what
And
the,
look at Pandora.
do you know what the most
They're
expensive
like,
audio
oh, gosh.
animatronic is in all 4 parks?
Hmm.
Do you? I feel like you do.
I probably know.
What is your like?
I have 2 guesses.
Okay.
Probably up till now it was the Yeti,
I was
which it
thinking.
hasn't
Nope.
moved. But probably now is the Shaman because
In
she had
fact,
a lot of
it is
development.
not the most expensive.
Really.
The most
What is the most
expensive audio animatronic in all of the parks is
Elsa.
found, in Belle's Enchanted Tales.
Really? That Lumiere.
The Lumiere
Oh my
is the
gosh.
most expensive, at least according to the employees that I've spoken to, some of the that like work with like the technical side of things, the most
Mhm.
expensive because he is lifelike to an extreme. Like it's basically if you reached into Beauty and the Beast. I've never personally seen it.
Neither have I.
I
I've
haven't
seen
seen
it.
Enchanted Tales with Belle since it was where Merida currently meets.
I've seen it. It's a really great animatronic, and like my mom was amazed because she loves Beauty and the Beast. So when she saw that and I saw that, I was like, "Wow!"
Also,
they
it
actually
doesn't
did that?
it doesn't break down as much as the Shaman.
No.
The Shaman, the thing
Really,
with the Shaman.
breaks down.
So what happens isn't so much that it breaks down a lot. It's that like if any tiny little thing goes wrong, they have to take her out because otherwise she could tear herself apart.
Yeah.
Literally.
They push her back, pull down the screen, projection.
Yep. So like
That's it.
if any
And
little
everybody's like, "Oh,
if any little piece is not working properly, they have to shut her off because they have to fix it immediately and not run it because they don't want her to tear herself apart because that would be bad.
Yeah, with what you were saying, Zach, about the what's it called? What they were gonna put with the mythos? What's the place that they were gonna call it?
Beastly Kingdom?
Beastly
Beastly Kingdom.
Kingdom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jesus, Michelle.
I don't know. Me and names are not the best. Okay.
yeah."
But
I would have built that instead of.
you know,
Pandora?
I think
now.
that they could still do that, but they could do it with their other parks. Like I think I could see that in like Shanghai, Hong Kong, more
Well,
of the Asian ones.
I mean,
I'd be really mad if it went to Tokyo.
the
I'd be
theming
really
would
ticked.
be. I don't know how well the theming, because like it fits. I think it fits for Animal Kingdom, and
mean,
we're
yeah,
the
it does.
only park worldwide that has anything like Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
Like usually it's Magic Kingdom that's replicated, and then I think in Paris, they have a replication that's better than Hollywood Studios. But aside from
Exactly.
that,
You're right. You're right.
isn't it called like Disney Studios?
It's
or
called
something?
Walt Disney Studios.
I want to.
It's very
see
simple.
That.
And it has like they've had the hat too,
Rather
but
than
they had
the
a much
name
more
change.
classy hat. It's actually
I liked the
duplicate.
hat we had.
yeah.
I
the hat that they have in Paris sits on top of a building, and it's the animation studios.
Now
it's
I have
actually
to Google it.
it's actually I believe it's a copy of the one in Burbank, of their actual studio, and that's one of the icons in their park. 'Cause it's a little pretty like classy hat. It's very modern looking.
Yeah.
While ours was really designed to be an icon, which I liked the hat, but that's beside the
I
point.
like
Do they still have the
that.
Eiffel Tower?
No, they got
No.
rid of the Eiffel Tower.
I don't know
No,
if
at
they
theirs.
do.
Yeah,
they
do. Look.
They do. Yes, they have
They
one.
still have an Eiffel Tower.
But like theirs is actually like it looks like a studio, and
Yes,
I
it
don't
does.
know why ours ended up like the Eiffel Tower. They wanted to make an icon at Hollywood Studios and MGM Studios way back in the day, but it was so off the beaten path. It was way to the back of the park.
yeah,
you
you had
didn't
to
see
ride.
it.
You had to ride the
Well,
the what's it called, the backlot tour to see it.
Yeah,
I feel like they wanted to hit so many eras with Hollywood Studios, MGM, with the whole movies thing. They didn't make it look like an actual studio.
Well,
and-
it was a working studio back
Well,
in
yeah,
the
yeah,
very beginning days of
actually
MGM
filmed-
Studios. They filmed movies there. They filmed the Ellen ride was filmed
Yeah.
at Hollywood Studios in one of those sound stages. And if you walk around now, you can see some old decrepit like stoplights. Those used to be like working stoplights because when you would walk past that, you'd end up in like actual film shooting, and the guests were not allowed back there. But clearly, they kind of threw that out the window. So like,
they filmed a Bette Midler movie there on the Street of America there.
the problem
so.
is that it's just
Yeah.
slowly become less of a it's slowly lost its theming, but it's happened so gradually that like you didn't notice it was happening. It's like that whole metaphor where if you stick a toad in boiling water, it hops out. Ooh, I'm sorry. Bleep that out.
yeah.
Anyway, if
The
you
one rule.
sorry, curse a lot. If you stick a toad in boiling water, it gets out. But if you stick a toad in like normal water and slowly boil it, it just dies because it doesn't notice anything's wrong until it's too late and it's already dead. And that's what's happened to the theming in Hollywood Studios.
That's a pretty good metaphor.
It is a good metaphor because
I'm like, whoa, that's actually really realistic.
yeah, because that's what they've done. They've just slowly been taking things out. Like the only evidence currently, and it's gonna get the axe very soon, of what the park used to be like is the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular, because they still give you that illusion that you're filming on the set of Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it so does not fit with the theme anymore.
Nope.
Like you go into that, like it used to be like everything was like, welcome to the set of, and then it'd be like, whatever. And then like you've got Indiana Jones and you've got like the backlot tour and you've got lights, motor, action. But now the only remnant of that entire concept is this one attraction, and you're just like there, and it's like it's a lot of fun. It's gonna be dead soon because it doesn't work with that park anymore.
So if I was to change the parks, definitely I would have left the studio. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know how you could have figured it to make it
Left
modern
MGM
day.
the way it is.
Yes, leave it as MGM way back then.
Yeah.
Because it worked.
Well,
it
I
actually
mean,
worked
Why did they
well.
actually
They
change it?
They lost. No, I asked a cast member this once. Disney didn't want to pay MGM for the rights to the name anymore.
Yeah.
That
pretty much
part
true.
is mildly understandable.
Okay,
like,
but why did they have to change the theming of it?
oh, that just happened because they didn't want to use it as a sound studio anymore, and because it wasn't actually being used as like a real set piece anymore. It kind of like they got lazy with it, and then they just started sticking shit like there that was like, we can't fit it in any other parks, so let's just stick it here.
Yeah, it became the
Dumping
closet.
ground.
Essentially the closet. Let's stick it over here.
Well,
just
because
it
see,
is now, whatever.
as an actor, I really
You use a nicer word than I do.
when I was growing up, I had an appreciation for MGM. I loved it, but I didn't really like love it until I became an actor. I was like,
Exactly.
oh my gosh, this
It had
is
a very nice
amazing.
atmosphere. There was this, I think I've mentioned this in this podcast before, but attached to the Sci-Fi Dine-In, there used to be this little kitchen shop / bookstore / cafe. and it sold pastries and slushies and hot chocolate during the winter. I mean, it sold it all the time, but you didn't buy it any other time in the winter because it was like right before the Osborne Festival of Lights.
What they call a writer's
So
stop or
yeah, so me and my family, whenever we go see the Osborne Festival of Lights, we would go chill in there until the sun went down and they turned all the lights on. It was a great atmosphere. It smelled like a real bookstore coffee shop. Like, it was just so nice. And like, you looked out and you saw the pseudo Hollywood stuff, and it was so cool.
Yeah. I remember I was able to see it before they changed the name to Hollywood Studios.
Yeah.
And like, my mom still calls it MGM because of it.
I
But,
still call it MGM.
I still call it
Still.
MGM when
I
I'm not
still-
insulting it.
Yeah.
When I'm insulting it, it's Hollywood Studios.
Yes, but like, whenever we came that first time, we loved Hollywood Studios. We wanted to come back for a second day because we felt like we didn't get enough of it.
Yeah.
And so the next time we came, we did 2 days at Hollywood Studios. And then it was Hollywood Studios, and it wasn't as great. So after that, we said, well, we can only do this in like a half a day. This is not even what did they do? They took everything out because we were able to ride the studio tour at the time. We were able to do pretty much everything backstage wise.
They
We
shortened.
did
I remember
a
they
lot of the
chopped
backstage stuff.
up the backlot tour before they got rid of it. It was like half as long. And like, I was there last weekend with some friends, and we were at like the Ariel show. The Little Mermaid on stage. The Voyage
Yeah.
of the Little Mermaid. There
Yeah.
we go.
There you
That's
go.
its title. They shortened that. Back when I was a kid, it was half an hour long, and it ran every like 50 minutes. Now it's about 18 minutes long. It runs every 30 minutes. And I was like really thinking about it, and they just shortened some of the songs. She doesn't get to sing all of Part of Your World, and
Yeah.
Ursula doesn't get to do all of Poor
Poor
Unfortunate
Unfortunate
Souls. And it's like, why do you keep putting the axe to things I love? The next time they fix The Little Mermaid, they're going to axe it. It's going to go away. And they've already confirmed they're getting rid of Beauty and the Beast. They're getting rid of The Little Mermaid.
They're getting rid of Beauty and the Beast?
Oh yeah, that's gone. That's going. They can't do it now though, because there's not like
Yeah, there's,
if they close
they can't close
anything else in that park. And I did say this before the Great
The
Movie
park's
Ride,
gonna go
but
down.
that park like is literally like, I don't think they're necessarily losing money now, but they're not really making a lot off of that park.
Because there's
But if
nothing
they
there.
close another attraction before they open Toy Story Land, they're gonna like lose money on that park.
Mhm.
Literally lose money paying their cast members
True.
to keep that park running. because no one's gonna want to go, no one's gonna want to spend money there. Like the 2-star, I almost said Star Trek. Oh my god. The 2 Star Wars attractions are not enough
No.
to
No.
appeal, and the Star Wars fireworks. And as much as I love Fantasmic is not enough of a motivator to get me into that park if there's nothing else to do. And like, go Rock and Roller Coaster, go Tower of Terror if you're into that, but like, it's still, that's a couple of things to do. And if you axe the rest of the shows right now, you're not going to have anything there.
There's nothing there.
But that was the great thing about MGM Studios was all the shows.
Yes,
All of
I
the
loved
things
it.
to see from behind the scenes of the movies. And now, taking this film class, I've kind of seen all the different roles in film and
Yeah.
cinema in general. And I'm like, I want to be back in that time, because they were wanting to make Orlando the Hollywood of the East.
No,
And
it's moving to
it ended
Atlanta
up
now.
being like Atlanta.
As an actor, I can say it's now Atlanta.
It's
and
Atlanta.
Well,
not,
that's because of the tax
Orlando.
breaks.
Yeah, they
That's
wanted
not
it,
really
and
any-
Florida was like, no.
I mean, it was moving there anyways, even without the taxes.
Yeah.
People were moving to Atlanta because it's this kind of the same as Orlando.
But
where
like
it has-
Eisner wanted to build the Hollywood of the East. He wanted Disney to get in on the action right before Universal did. And so he said, we're going to build a fully working studio right here. We have several sound stages. It's going to be they're going to have their own costume facility, everything.
Mhm.
And they did. They built it all, but Hollywood didn't move here. It moved to Atlanta.
Yep.
Because it was cheaper to film in Atlanta than Orlando because of the taxes.
Yep, and that's what it all boils
And they're
down
like,
to.
oops. And so they slowly have just been shuttering the studio attractions and over the years because it's getting old and they're not going to upgrade it.
They need to
Like
get
the
rid
only
of.
thing left is Backlot Express that even looks like the studio anymore.
Oh
and
yeah, I forgot.
that is
Yeah.
a sad
It's
restaurant.
a sad restaurant. I was in there once, and I was like sitting there, and I was listening to the music, and I was like, I know this song from something. And then I stopped and I paused and I listened to it, and I was like, this is the theme song from MASH. What is
Yep.
this doing in Disney World?
If you listen, the soundtrack for Hollywood Studios is a very strange soundtrack. There's a lot of weird music in that
Like,
park.
does anyone in this century even know what MASH is? Do you? Like,
No. I've heard of it.
I mean, I've heard of it, but I've never watched it.
It's like a really old TV show. Like, why are they playing that in Hollywood studios?
It's
My
a lot
dad
of film
loves it.
music.
That's why I know it.
There's a lot of like classic film music, but a lot of people don't know those anymore.
It's
Mhm.
just
So the park is kind of faded into obscurity because they don't want to update anything.
the only
Yeah.
reason people go is Star Wars, Tower of Terror, Rock and Roller Coaster, and Fantasia.
That's it, the
Phantasmic.
rides.
Phantasmic.
Okay, well, we've talked about Hollywood studios a lot because we know that's the main majority of things that need to be.
Well, we would have fixed it
Fixed.
better than they're doing it.
Yes.
We would have kept that whole
Zach and I could team up and
behind
make
the
a better
scenes
park.
Awesome.
thing.
Definitely.
But what about some of the other parks? Like, do you guys notice?
I don't even want to
any
get
things?
started on Epcot.
Let's
but
talk about Magic Kingdom then.
let's go to
Okay.
Magic Kingdom.
Okay, let's talk about the Tangled Bathrooms.
Oh yeah, we need a tangled
And let's
place.
talk about what a shame that Tangled only
wasted.
representation is bathrooms. See, what I would have done,
Such a wasted opportunity.
what
Swear.
I think would have been really awesome.
Photo op of the bathroom.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's so awkward because if you know that it's a bathroom, you look at it and you're like, these people are taking a photo in front of a bathroom. Anyway, ooh, sorry, microphone. Anyway, what I would have thought was cool is they could do an outside, like, or even like inside. They could do a boat ride, like
Oh, yeah.
where you get on a boat, like the one that they have at the end of the movie during I See the Light, and you could go through like the story, and then maybe you could like go. The logistics of this like don't really exist yet, but I have confidence that Disney could figure it out if they tried really hard. It would be an indoor show except for the I See the Light scene at night. At night they would open it up to the outside. But in
and
the
actually
daytime,
have like lanterns.
yeah,
flying and
like
stuff.
the plastic lanterns that like glow like they do around the bathrooms, but in the daytime it would be like inside so that they could feign night. Like, I don't know how the logistics of that works out. Like, you could make, like, a convertible top or something, probably.
I mean, even in Disneyland, they have something. The show that's in Disneyland.
Right, they have a Tangled.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so we have, what do we have? We have a Frozen ride and we have a Frozen sing-along. I mean, I grant you they're in two different parks, and I really think we shouldn't have that Frozen ride where it is. But, like,
We'll get into that later.
but
Epcot.
the fact
Oh.
that there's both a Frozen ride and a Frozen show, and I get that Frozen is a cash cow, but people really like Tangled, and Tangled has some good ass music. Like, put a Tangled show where the stupid Frozen show is. And I know that we're getting back to Hollywood Studios, but give us something better for Tangled than a bathroom.
It deserves more.
It deserves more. It's such a good
I
movie.
know. Like, they have a show at Disneyland. It's called Mickey and the Magical Map.
Yeah,
and
that
it
one.
has it has a Tangled section in it where they have Flynn Rider and Rapunzel come out and sing their songs. And then I think they have
Flynn
Mulan
doesn't
and a
have
few
a
other
song.
things.
Oh, you mean like
Yeah,
I See
like-
the Light?
Yeah, they're
Oh, okay.
together, you know.
The
And then
they
Mulan
do
comes
have
out, and then I think Pocahontas is in the show.
That's
and
yeah,
weird.
Mickey.
she's. I love
It's
the way
all
she
very
does it.
strange,
like,
but it's
she's-
really nice. It's a very fancy.
they
like,
do have Tangled
Yeah.
in Mickey's Royal Friendship Fair along with Frozen. Because you can't have one without the other.
Oh, that was such a thrown together thing anyway.
I
on another
love the
topic.
Royal Friendship Fair.
Like,
I
well,
like
the Royal.
Dream Along with
Royal
Mickey
Friendship
better.
Fair is good,
no,
though.
I don't.
I'm thinking it's a different thing here.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
I wasn't like a lot of people didn't like that they replaced Dream Along with Mickey, but it felt so dated. And like
Yes.
I really like that like the princesses, the voices of the princesses and the princes in the current show are the original voice actors
Yes.
and not weird approximations that really don't sound like them.
Okay, the thing I liked about Dream Along though is because it had original songs. Like
Very true.
there are only they have one original song.
Let's see. What was it? Castle Party. I heard that song. I think of Magic Kingdom. I still do.
But like Friendship Fair has like the like
We are links in a chain.
yeah, we are
Forged in silver and gold. Like
It's
We
great
haven't heard
until Frozen
enough.
comes along.
we haven't heard it enough yet
well,
to really
I
like,
don't know.
remember it.
I
so.
think that it's a lot. I think that it's a lot more exciting than Dream Along with Mickey, which I almost just called Wishes.
Dream Along with Wishes.
Didn't Dream Along with Mickey premiere with the Year of a Million Dreams?
I think so.
Yes,
it
because
has been around at least
I
as
know
early as
this-
2005.
I know this
so-
specifically because I have the Minnie Mouse of that Minnie in that dress. And the only reason I was able to get that Minnie Mouse of that stage show is because that was the Year of a Million Dreams outfit she had. Took me like 3 years to track down that Minnie Mouse, but I found it. Anyway,
She'll
I'm
do
sorry.
everything she can to get her mini.
If you don't remember, I'm obsessive and I have a lot of Minnie Mouses. Anyway, but like that show was for the Year of a Million Dreams, and it made sense in the context of a Year of a Million Dreams. However, once the Year of a Million Dreams was gone and then promptly kind of forgotten about, like it was just kind of like, I get that dreams are kind of like a big theme in Disney. Like, I'm not going to say they're not, but like when the whole park stopped being about dreams and about like all the dreams coming true, it didn't make as much sense to me like as the big castle show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I liked Dream Along with Mickey. I know it was there at least as far back as 2005 because that's my first trip, and I filmed it. I remember I have it on video. It's on YouTube now. And it's
You
a really-
posted it?
I posted it on YouTube. That was back when I was like really excited. It was like the first time YouTube, and I was like, yay!
Yeah.
First video.
I'm
But,
Googling
like
it.
I was literally posting everything I did. I filmed the whole trip. I felt like I'd never seen anything because I was looking through a camera.
It
but-
premiered September 30th, 2006.
Really?
Yes, which was the Year of a Million Dreams.
Well, maybe it's the second trip I filmed everything.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
it was
It's been a
the
long
Year of a
while.
Million Dreams, and then they extended the Year of a Million Dreams to a second year. I remember that because when they premiered Dream Along with Mickey, another reason that I thought it was kind of weird that it stayed there is they had this really cool thing on the castle. Like there are gold accents now. They added
Oh,
a lot more gold accents. They had like different characters. They had like Peter Pan flying around one of the spires
That
in
was
gold.
from Happiest Celebration on Earth.
Oh, was that?
From
'Cause they put that-
2005, Disneyland's 50th.
Okay, well, they put it on for the Year of a Million Dreams, and they also had this really big, like, it kind of looked like, it was like a big oval, and it was like, it changed pictures with like those like slat changing. I don't know if like you know what I mean, but like it would have like the 3 different iterations of Cinderella's castle, and like it fit very well. And also the little stage when Minnie and Mickey get up at the end when they raise up into the air
Mm-hmm.
would like look like the gold and stained glass of the like castle, and it matched, and it was really cool. But
That's
like
cool.
then they got rid of the rest of the theming on the castle, but they left that one little wallpaper, and I was like, that doesn't really fit anymore. But okay, if you're gonna go with that.
Okay, but one thing they really need to fix is Tomorrowland.
Tomorrowland is that thing that even Walt Disney in his day he couldn't fix. Like even Disneyland, he was like, okay, it's getting tired. You know, it's always something. It's hard to track down. It's hard to stop because tomorrow is always changing.
Okay,
And so he can't. You know, they finally come up with the idea. Let's make it retro themed.
it's like the tomorrow
So,
that never happened.
yeah.
That's what the theme
Yeah.
is. Not that anyone knows that.
They're
but
always
it's-
like it's the Tomorrowland that everyone wanted. It never happened though. Is what you wanted but never could.
It's what
happen.
you've always seen in those old sci-fi
Yeah.
films
Yeah.
of what
pretty
people
much.
think the future is going to be like.
I mean,
So-
like I think it's cute. Like I love it. Like there are things that are my favorite in that section of the park. I love the Carousel of Progress. Like I go on it pretty much every time I'm there. Well, I stopped when I started going with friends, but like whenever I was there with my family, if we went to Magic Kingdom, we had to ride the Carousel of Progress. And so like I know that ride very intimately. I just did an assignment on it in my Disney class about it. That was an interesting assignment. It was about gender and the Carousel of Progress. But
Oh yeah, that could be a really heated topic.
I
there.
diverge. I went on a rant on my discussion post.
You should hear some of the old soundtracks. I have.
Yeah, I know.
and
I've
they're
seen.
like-
I've
Okay,
seen
I
every
didn't
version.
know there were different songs. Like,
Yeah,
my,
there's
I would told,
4 versions of the show total.
I told my mom about the Carousel of Progress, and she's like, "Oh yeah, with that song, what is it? I
Great
forgot.
Big Beautiful Tomorrow.
No, the
Oh.
other one that they replaced for like a
Now,
I know what
year.
you're talking
now
about.
is the time.
Now is the time. She
Nobody
told me
liked
that
it.
one.
That's
Everyone
what a
wanted.
lot of older people remember because that's the original song that came to Walt Disney World.
Right,
was
but
Now
it
Is
wasn't the
Yeah.
original song
No.
from
No,
the
it
ride.
wasn't.
It was always the Sherman Brothers wrote Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow
Yeah.
for the ride. And like,
It became Walt Disney's anthem.
yeah, and it's such a good song.
Yes, it's a great song, and it's kind of the definition of Walt Disney. And so like let's see here, then whenever they brought Carousel of Progress to Disney World, they
That was
And they
you.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
they
my phone.
literally brought it. Like
They
they
brought
literally
it
carted it from
from there.
California to Florida.
Yeah.
and they
And that
changed the
was-
song because GE wanted to update it because
Yeah.
GE's time frame there changed.
Because originally the last scene
leadership-
was the 1960s.
Yeah, the
interestingly.
leadership of GE, who was the sponsor of the attraction, they were going for back in the 60s. They were going for buy your, have your futuristic appliances, buy your most futuristic things. We can create your most futuristic, amazing appliances for the future. They're
Yeah.
like, you can have some great things later. But the new leadership, the CEO left, and they decided they didn't want to be selling appliances tomorrow. They needed to sell appliances now. So they said, now is the time to buy your stuff. Now is the time. So they convinced the Shermans to write, now is the time.
Ugh.
And then they didn't really want to because they really liked
No
Great
one
Big
really
Beautiful.
wanted to.
No
because
one
Great
did.
Big Beautiful Tomorrow is an anthem.
Yes.
It's the best.
But like the thing is, my
So-
mom didn't like when I told her about the Carousel of Progress and the song. She started singing "Now Is the Time." I was like, "What are you singing?" I had no idea what she was talking about. She's like,
Sorry.
"That's the song
Very
for the Carousel of Progress, right?" And I'm like,
No.
no."
It hasn't been that
No.
way since I
Since,
don't
like,
remember the date.
the
but
80s, right?
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
I don't know. I will say while we're on the topic of Tomorrowland that the Carousel of Progress does need to be updated. And I say this in the regard of like, okay. So they have all these like weird, like the daughter Patricia, right? The daughter Patricia, barring the last scene, only talks about boys. And like, I'm not saying give her like something that's unrealistic for the time. I'm not saying, because that ride is very much based in history. And if you
Mhm.
start lying about, like, they already kind of
Yeah.
skirt around the Great War or the the World War II in the 40s and World War I in the 20s. Like they skirt around that.
Yeah.
But and that's one thing because you don't really want to talk about war in like,
a
in-
ride.
yeah.
Well,
with
secretly they
Disney.
kind of had parts of the
Yeah.
original soundtrack that they first made. The original script did mention a few of those
Yeah,
things
but
that they
I'm not-
skirt around now.
I'm
they
not
kind of
saying
edited it a
to
lot.
like change like Patricia so that she like is like I don't know, but like give her a personality other than boy crazed. Give the mom a personality other than I do chores.
It was
like,
worse. Trust
Canning
me.
and cleaning the oven or whatever the heck she says in that first scene. And I know it's been worse. I just read a giant article on this.
Yes.
It's been worse. There was
Like he would tell her to stop talking, but
Mhm.
to finish ironing the wrinkles out of his shirt,
yep.
just so he can keep talking.
Yep.
And then
And she would
the last
interrupt
scene.
and she would be like shrill and seen as like
Have you seen the original, the
Yeah.
one from the World's Fair version with the GE medallion home? She
Yeah.
would not let him talk. It was
Yeah.
kind of a turnaround. She just kept talking the whole time in that last scene.
it was really
I liked that.
uncomfortable. I
It
mean,
was
I
very
liked it,
straight.
but it
He's
was
like,
very
"Mother,
uncomfortable.
Mother.
Wasn't that
It's
before
funny.
they had names too?
Yes, they
Yeah.
really didn't have names for them.
Here's a fun fact: Patricia has also been Jane.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I remember hearing that in
but
one of them.
I don't know. But like also like they just like okay, so in the final scene, the Christmas scene,
Mm-hmm.
they have this flat screen, which is very anachronistic considering all of the other technology. And like, I'm just saying, like, I know why it's there. It's there because the original TV broke
Yeah,
and they
it-
could not
it was
find
horrible.
another one.
the
but
original one was like a tube TV.
yeah, the tube TV broke and they couldn't find another one, so they were just like, screw it, we're putting in a flat screen.
I remember
Am
the
I
tube
wrong?
TV.
So
I
do
remember
I.
it, and I was like, it was very hard to see the picture on it, and which made sense for
It was
the
part of
scene.
the
It was part
charm.
of it, but then they
Now
just
it's
changed it,
high
and you're
def
like,
flat screen, and it's like, okay, but like,
and you know
What?
that the image is still powered by laser disc. Remember those giant record-sized discs?
yeah, it was.
What?
It's
They
still
were
laser
supposed to
disc.
be the new. They were supposed to take over DVDs. They were these record-sized, basically CD DVDs,
Mhm.
and they held like up to like 6 hours of like video on them, but they were also the size of vinyls.
It was giant. I remember my 6th grade science teacher had this in her
yeah,
classroom.
we had one
and
in
she
my
would play
8th
them
grade.
all the time because they had like different movies on them for science themed
Oh no,
stuff.
we
It was
had
crazy.
our sex ed in 8th grade was on a vinyl or was on a laser disc, and she had to borrow the single laser disc player at the school to play us our sex ed lessons.
That's great.
But like
Go
they
public
still use
schooling.
it. They still use it in the Carousel of Progress because I
Yeah,
know
because they'd have to
on
completely
Twitter, the
recreate
guy-
that video for DVD.
Wait,
Yeah.
so like what would you update? Like
They need to. Okay, my proposal, and let's see what you think of this, because I know you're a pretty big Carousel of Progress buff. I think that it needs to still end on the modern day,
Mhm.
but it needs to not go 1899, 1920s, 1940s, 90s. It needs to kind of start in like the 60s, and it needs to progress naturally to now. Or at least start in the 1890s, go to the 1940s, go to the 1960s, go now. Something that's not as glaringly huge of a gap as between like the 60s and now. Like they need to either like force the timeline forward or they need to spread it out more. They can't, because what happened is they would change the timeline of the final scene, but they wouldn't touch the first 3. So they would like change the last scene to modern, and the last time it was updated, it was in the 90s, and then like in the 80s it was the 80s, in the 70s it was the 70s at the end. However, it was always the same first 3 scenes. And yes, in the 60s when it first premiered, it wasn't as glaring
No.
that the last
'Cause
scene
it was more recent.
was
Everyone
in
knew
the
what
60s,
it was.
right?
Yeah.
But now that we're in the 2010s and the last scene is the 90s, but the scene right before that is like the 40s, like that's such a huge gap.
We're almost 100 years ahead of it now.
We
We're
are
almost.
100.
We're getting there.
Oh, we're 100.
We're getting close. Well,
we're
actually,
over
we are.
100 years
We are,
ahead of the
actually, yeah.
first scene.
Because
and
it
we're-
was 1890s.
1890. He said it's right before the turn of the century.
Yep. Right
Yeah.
before the
So-
invention of electricity. That's what
Yeah.
it's trying to follow is invention of electricity and how it changed the home.
And like,
But at the
yes,
same time, you're like,
I appreciate some of the jokes. Like, there are these brothers trying to create a flying contraption. It'll never work. And then in the very next scene, he's like, guy trying to fly across the Atlantic Ocean solo. He's never going to make it. Like, the humor of those jokes is
Yes.
great. But they could make that joke about anything
Anything.
else.
Mhm.
And like,
like even with like phones, like this is never
Although,
gonna get
in
smaller.
fairness, in the final scene,
Oh, and
Patricia's
she
like,
car
he
phone.
doesn't even have a car phone. But okay, I will say this. This is a double-edged sword because if any of you guys have seen last year's, I don't know if it was before that, Very Merry Christmas Party stage show.
I have not.
Have you?
No.
Okay, so we didn't really watch it because it was shit. So basically, like, all of the characters, and it's like the Fab Five and Chip and Dale and Friends and such, are like on their phones and they're like taking selfies and they're like
No.
texting each other
No
on
thanks.
stage.
I don't wanna see
On
that.
stage.
I
It was
don't-
though if it's still
That
at
sounds
this year's
horrid.
Very Merry Christmas Party, I am writing a strongly worded letter to the Disney Corporation because
doesn't
it was
sound good.
the biggest pile of flaming shit of a stage show I have literally ever seen.
So you would definitely not have that show in Magic Kingdom
So
if you were in
oh
charge.
yeah, get that show
Get it
out
out.
of the park. And that was the exclusive Very Merry Christmas Party show. And it was so awkward because they would be like, selfie time or something. And it would be like, what are you guys doing to me?
I don't want to see
It's
that.
like
at
when
all.
adults try to be cool.
It was literally adults
like
trying to
it.
be cool with their, and they would be like, look at my smartphone. And I'd be like, stop, Minnie. Stop, Minnie. You're better than this.
Oh my gosh. So you could see that as being a bad thing if they did that to
Right.
Carousel
So
of
like,
Progress.
I don't want them to do, but I would appreciate maybe seeing like, okay, so the first narrative is the invention of electricity.
Mm-hmm.
You could follow from the 60s, you could follow the invention of computers because you start out with, computers, these big, larger than life things.
I could
They're
never see
larger
these
than
computers
houses.
getting smaller.
Exactly. And then they get house sized and then laptops became a thing. And now we have smartphones. And that could be a reasonable progression of the show because like just as it is now, it feels very dated, and it also feels very disconnected from us, because we take things like electricity as like it's been here for hundreds of years. It hasn't, but it feels like it has because we're 20.
Yeah.
We're in our 20s.
It's
and
been
like,
our whole lives we've had electricity in the same way, and it's just got to where it's more
Right.
everywhere, even
and
more.
even
Yeah.
the
over our
adults,
lives, so it's
even all the adults have pretty
Yeah.
much had electricity. Like, it made sense 40 years ago when all of the adults could remember a time, or at least most of the adults could remember a time before electricity.
No one.
But now that pretty much all of those people are dead, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense as the narrative of the story. And
Yeah.
I don't want them to get rid of this attraction. And if it's
No.
between keeping the attraction as it is now and them getting
Well,
rid of it, like,
I
keep
think
it
that's
as it
also
is.
the thing. They
But-
want to keep it the same as it was when it came out.
Yeah.
Like, they
because
want
it's
to
the-
keep it closest to the original as it was.
It's
But
very
I think
true.
that the spirit is much more important than the actual storyline. Like, keep the family.
Well, isn't that the whole point of the narrative in the beginning? Like, this is how it was when it was launched in the 1960s.
Yeah, it even says, this
the
is the
longest
show
running stage show ever?
Yeah.
in the history of American theater,
Yeah.
and he mentions that this premiered in the 1964 New York World's Fair,
But
and all of this. But and
That's
it is
technically
actually
a lie because it's
not
not
the
the
whole
same
show.
Yeah.
show. It's a different.
It's very similar, but it's not the same.
They've changed
There's
it
a
through
lot
the
of
years.
parts
It's the
that are
fourth
correct.
iteration. Like,
Yeah.
and I understand not wanting to get rid of this historical piece but I think that you could still keep Walt Disney's name on it as long as you kept the spirit of the show the same. Like, that's the important part of the Carousel of Progress, not the actual like technological advances, but the spirit of there's a great big beautiful tomorrow. We are inventing things every day. Tomorrow is going to hold a new
Maybe they could say that in the
Amazing.
narrative. Like, this is different, but, like, that's everything. Everything's
Exactly,
changing.
like-
See, there was a concept I've actually drawn out on paper and wrote down so I wouldn't forget, because I'm really bad at forgetting things. But my idea for changing the Carousel Progress was to update it in the way that it performs. So my concept was that you extend each scene just a littlest bit longer in time-wise, so that you could have an introductory scene, maybe an animatronic behind that curtain that's just there, to give you kind of the overview. Even an animatronic of Walt Disney would be interesting to see,
Ooh.
to introduce you to the carousel.
They've never done that.
No.
Someone
They've
put Zach
never
in
made
charge.
an animatronic of. That's actually
That
really
would be-
surprising.
Because you could say, he could welcome you, because he has all kinds of footage they could draw direct audio from. They have
Mhm.
Walt Disney Archive Collection audio of him talking about the Carousel of Progress, things that we've never seen that they show us as cast members.
And
I've seen audio that they don't release to the public.
listened to.
And I'm like,
You can't see
well,
audio.
I've seen
Zach.
videos and heard audio that they don't release to the public, but they have as like training videos of Walt Disney talking.
Yeah.
And they've got so much footage of him that they could pull and make an animatronic of.
And even
and it
if
would
they
be
didn't
the
want to
most
use the
advanced.
footage, like they
Yeah.
could get like a dude that does great voices, and they
Oh,
could
yeah.
like if they couldn't get like a good enough sound quality out of that, they could do like. Have you seen like Saving Mr. Banks?
Yeah.
Like, he did a great job of portraying
He
Walt
did.
Disney, and they
Yeah.
could find someone to do that and to mocap that,
Mm-hmm.
because motion capture of 1950s video is probably not great.
But you would come into the theater, you'd sit down, the curtain would open, there would be Walt Disney standing there to give you a introduction to the show
Mm-hmm.
and to his concept for how tomorrow could be changed by technology. And
Make
then you
him
would
sing the
continue.
song.
Yeah, they would start the song, but it would be the original version that they had when the Sherman Brothers did it.
Oh, of
And
the Sherman Brothers singing it?
possibly, but I don't know.
They have that at
They
the
have
beginning
it.
when you stand outside the ride, but
Yeah.
no one ever. You
I
never
have
wait
it-
for the ride.
I have
so.
it as a ringtone on my phone. So
Nice.
But I have they have a CD version too that they recorded for that, from that exact video that you see
I
outside.
love the Sherman Brothers.
But
Mm-hmm.
the show would be just a little bit extended, so in order just to allow for that extra time at the beginning when you're loading the theater, and then also at the exit. The original show in Disneyland featured a speed ramp at the last section. You would, instead of exiting the rear of the theater, you would go up to the stage. You would board the speed ramp and go up to a second floor, where they had the full Epcot model of Progress City.
The one that's
where-
up now.
Yeah,
in,
the one that's
Yeah,
in the people mover.
Yes.
Yeah.
You would see the full thing. They had, it was, I think, 130 feet wide or something. It was ginormous.
It was huge.
It
I've
was
seen
huge.
pictures.
I've seen I can't remember the dimensions, but it was ginormous. So they had the whole floor dedicated to that. And so father and mother would introduce you to Progress City and the concept for Epcot that was coming to a city near you, which was the concept at that time. And so I don't think you could go back to that
No.
with the current building they have.
They can't. They
really
logistically
can't.
cannot build a second floor.
So
on
they
the back.
can't
Yeah.
do that. But I think you could add a scene to that section if you extended it long enough. You could have a modern day scene to where you could make the scene that we consider modern day some kind of a bridge scene
Yeah.
between the old times and the present day, to where you have an extra scene from the original show. So you could have a modern representation of a today building or a today home with a family in today's times.
I love it.
I think you could do that, and then at the end of that scene, this curtain would close, and you would exit out the back of the theater, and then the theater would continue moving. But you'd have to extend the time on the scene in order to do that. 'cause
just a little bit.
they
Yeah.
don't have enough time to load the theater, do a show, and then move. They
Yeah,
have
that's
to load
why-
the theater, move, then do a show.
That's why the loading one is just that gear, and that's why the
Yeah.
exiting one is just that gear.
So they'd have to extend it, but it's
Ooh.
possible because you do sit there in that loading theater for quite a while before it starts moving.
Yeah.
Do you? I've never really timed it.
Yeah, and like it's meant to time it so that the whole theater has time to fill before they get up and start giving you the spiel,
Mm-hmm.
and then the father comes on the
Well,
the
if they started
audio
it
and
just a
starts
little
talking.
sooner.
Yeah, they could start it a little sooner. It doesn't. People move faster apparently nowadays than they used to. So
What?
I've noticed that there's always usually a time you're sitting there waiting for someone to come out before that little spotlight comes on, and then they start talking. And usually, I've even had times when people that are running the carousel that day, they literally come out before the spotlight comes on, and so they've already left the theater before the carousel light comes on. And
You know,
then
you know
start
what'd be
talking.
cool if you added the Walt Disney thing? Like the cast member could interact with Walt. Like
Yeah.
that'd be so cool.
That would be
Okay,
very
I-
interesting. But at
I
the-
like that, but it never works out. It's always super cheesy. Like, have you guys
Yes.
seen the pre-show for what's that called with the guitar? Like, that's
The what?
next to the Tower of Terror. Oh my God, Rockin' Roller Coaster.
yes,
Where
that is
the freaking
so
cast member
forced.
has to be like, how about some backstage passes? And then the Aerosmith man is like, backstage passes? What a great idea.
That's
I mean,
how it
maybe
would
not
feel.
like that intense, but like where she just has an intro and
I
then
guess.
Walt
or
just
like
takes
with,
it away.
With
Yeah,
not-
that could work. I
with like
think.
Pepe or whatever the heck the bird's name is.
Yeah.
In the freaking Tiki room.
Jose.
And
yeah.
he like
In
is
the
like
tiki room.
room.
gotta wake him up or whatever, and he's only programmed to have a male handler, and so he always calls it a dude, even if it's a lady.
I mean,
Oh,
that's
I've never
fine.
noticed that. I've only.
They told us
seen
that
it a
on the
few
Keys to the
times.
Kingdom tour.
That's interesting.
It's only programmed to be able to respond to a dude. So even if it's a lady, he'll call her like senor.
That's interesting.
Yep. Anyway,
okay.
but like it's always kind of awkwardly forced because she's clearly poking a robot.
I mean, just having
Yeah.
like an introduction and then having Walt like take it away.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
The thing is,
sounds
I
like-
think that a lot of times, they have something at as a cast member. I can't remember what it's called. It's a show integrity
Yeah.
thing they do for roles like that, to where you have a spiel like Jungle Cruise or something, or if you're a character, or if you're one of the bellmen
Mm-hmm.
in Tower of Terror, you have to act a certain way, or in the Haunted Mansion. Some cast members choose not to follow that book very closely.
Wait, what do you? Oh, like how like the people in the Haunted
And they're
Mansion are not
not
supposed to
as-
smile?
Yeah, they're not as themed as they should be.
Yeah.
And like that would happen, I think, in this case, and
Yeah.
the cast
fair.
member would just literally say the words.
Spiel.
They wouldn't even put any work into it. They're not gonna
Yeah.
force it. They're not gonna do any acting, and then you lose that whole interaction that you can get. Like you could have a really great introduction into Haunted Mansion, and then you can have a really bad one in the same day, just based on different cast
That's
Yeah.
members.
true.
Okay, are we done about talking about Magic Kingdom and anything else we want to add? Or
I mean, I guess that's about. If we want to talk about Epcot, I feel like that's going to take the
yeah,
rest of the time.
because I was
Yeah.
like, we need to really hit on
Can I
Epcot.
make a comment about Epcot first and foremost?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, they have the Frozen ride, and they're introducing a Ratatouille ride.
Yeah.
And I have my issues with both of those things. As much as I'd like to see that Ratatouille ride, because it is supposed to just be the one from Paris, which I've heard is amazing. I have not watched a ride through because I don't do that. But I have issue with them bringing intellectual properties as the center of attention in these countries. Like, it's less egregious with Ratatouille because Ratatouille is 100% set in France. You see the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
Like, everything is, like, it's clearly France. I think they even comment on the fact that they're in France.
Yeah, I think he's like, it's Paris, baby. We've got to get on this, on the all the restaurants. You know?
Frozen is vaguely Scandinavian.
Yeah,
it is vaguely Scandinavian. It is just there. It's only in Norway because it's a cash cow, and it's the only place it would have fit in that park. And again, I have my issue with both Frozen and Ratatouille being introduced into the World Showcase. Like, it's one thing that you can meet Mulan in China, or meet Snow White in Germany, or meet Belle in France. Like, that's one thing. That's a character spot that could easily be removed, and it doesn't really break the idea that this is the World Showcase. But when you add in actual Disney characters like Remy or like Elsa into the World Showcase, it breaks this idea that you're traveling around the countries and seeing a representation of French or Norwegian culture.
Yeah, it's not the real thing. Like, as you said, it's a problem because now it's kind of opened the door since they opened Frozen that they can do anything in any of the countries like that. And I think it's kind of a slap in the face to the countries who sponsored these pavilions, because they were believing they're going to be representing their culture in their full entirety as it is in their country in this section of Epcot.
I agree.
And like,
and they're paying for it,
they're
aren't they?
Yeah, they pay.
Yeah.
Well, see,
Well,
they
isn't that
sponsored.
why Norway left?
Norway
Not left, or
didn't
they
leave.
were planning to leave or something like
at
that.
some point, yeah, they're
Well,
like
if
Norway was one of the
leaves,
final
don't they
countries.
Don't they have to close that pavilion? Like,
Not
if Norway
necessarily.
pulled out
Disney
Because
has to
of the
kind
Frozen.
Disney has to take up the kind of the obligation to keep it up,
Mm.
but
Well,
they
because
can
of the
drop it.
Well, if they-
Frozen, they don't have
The thing
to.
is, if they stop sponsoring it, wouldn't they stop getting the like actual employees? If they stopped getting the actual employees from the countries would be shit, because that is literally like, so that's the thing that's so great about the countries is that like my best friend's sister Julie told me a story one time. She went and ate I think it's called the Nine Dragons in China. It's a sit down. And their waitress was from China, and she was leaving to go back to China the very next day. And it was so cool to talk to her about her experience in America and how it was different than China. And like that's the cool thing is like when you go into France to get a pastry, you get served by a French person. Like it's so cool and it's so genuine.
Yeah.
And see, like the restaurants are like that, and
And it stops it from
merchandise,
being
too.
racist. It stops it from seeming racist.
Yeah.
Because
it's real
like
people from those real countries. Their name tag says they're from that country. You know, they're from there. Their name is from that country. I mean, everything is right. And like, from a cast member perspective, I know seeing all these international cast members, I know where they work at because they're still speaking their native language most of the time.
Yeah.
Even in like backstage areas, you're like, you're from Epcot.
it's so
and
cool.
different cast events and stuff. And then, like discounts wise, I know we can't get discounts in the countries.
any of those stores because
because
they're
they're
not
all-
run by Disney.
They're all run by the country they're owned by. Like, I tried to get something cheaper at the China Pavilion because I had seen a pin they had from Shanghai Disneyland. I was like, I need that. So I was like, here, I have the cast member there. We don't do cast member. I don't know.
Don't start quoting it.
Don't.
No,
Don't.
we don't do cast member discount. And I'm like, really? That's
Yeah, 'cause
different.
they don't-
And then I seen on the receipt
It
that
doesn't-
it's sponsored, where it says some different things in Chinese on there, and I'm like, oh, okay. Because I've never actually tried
It's
to
why
buy
the
anything in
prices.
those stores.
It's
so.
also why the prices are very inconsistent between the countries because Disney's not setting the prices; the countries are.
Mhm.
Like when you go to Japan versus when you go to China, even though they sell a lot of the same products, the stuff at China is significantly less money than the stuff in Japan. Japan is very expensive. Very expensive.
experience, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't usually shop in those stores, so
I like to look at them. Japan is very interesting because it's like, it's really funny to me. You go in and you're slapped in the face with like Pokemon and like Studio Ghibli and like non-Disney properties. And
Yeah.
I think even when you go to England, to Great Britain, or whatever the heck that pavilion is called, the UK maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could.
They have like Doctor Who shit. I
They
think,
do?
don't they?
Yep.
They have
I
Doctor Who,
haven't-
and they have what's the other one? Sherlock, maybe? No.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yes.
I think I've seen both of those things.
Although
there.
that would be cool,
and
though.
it's really
if
funny.
In UK, they had like the 33B or 30. Is it 33B for Sherlock? 30.
Apart 30. I don't know. It's some.
I
I
don't
know what you're talking
remember.
about. It's his apartment
Baker
number.
Yeah,
Street,
his-
something
yeah.
Baker
Yeah, I know
Street.
it's something B, but it's like 30 something B. But like
Yeah.
that'd be a cool thing if they actually put that in there. I wouldn't mind.
I don't know. Like that would be cute, but like. I don't know. I just think that it's one thing for Japan to be pushing its intellectual properties. Because when you think of Japan, you do think of Studio Ghibli, you do think of Pokemon.
Mhm.
But when you think of, like, Norway, and, like, that's Japan supplying those things. But when I think of Norway, I do not think of Frozen.
Yeah, it's
No.
also weird because that's Norway technically didn't do anything with that. It was mostly a Disney thing.
Well, the ride is operated by Disney.
Yeah.
I also even take issue in Mexico with the Three Caballeros. Like, that's extremely racist, in my opinion. Like, and I hate saying that things are racist, but, like, I read a history lesson on, like, why the Three Caballeros even exist, again, in my Disney class.
Mhm.
And basically, the Three Caballeros were accumulated from a bunch of shorts in the 1940s, war-era shorts, and they were created to foster relations between America and South America, between the United States and South America and Central America. And like I don't know how that fostered relations, because I think that like the Three Caballeros are extremely racist. Like, if you've ever seen one of the actual shorts, or even in the boat ride, like when they speak, it's with a very like, this is forced Mexican, no Mexican speaks like this.
Yeah, it's an interesting attraction, in its very least.
Also, like,
But-
the audio animatronics terrify me.
Yeah, because it's the only time you see Donald as a real animatronic, and you're like,
He's
okay.
really creepy. His
Yeah.
eye, especially because
We're
like,
probably are we gonna see more of that when the replaced Great Movie Ride comes
oh
out?
no,
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I'm afraid
They're planning on using projection
that
based
it's gonna be VR. I'm afraid that the Great Movie Ride is gonna be
Yeah.
heavily VR.
And there's also, from back when they first announced the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge section of
Yeah.
Hollywood Studios.
Is that the name of the section of the park?
Yes, it's
Oh,
very hard.
that's-
Why do they make all the names so hard? I don't understand
It's
it.
gonna be called Star Wars Land.
Everyone's gonna
It's
call it
Toy
Star Wars
Story
Land.
Land, Star Wars Land, and Avatar Land.
That's
It is
it.
not Pandora and Galaxy Edge. And actually, I think Toy Story Land is still just called Toy
It
Story
is.
Land.
That's the
Yeah.
real name.
It's the only
they
one
just didn't
that
even
they were
try
smart
with. That one.
with.
But like,
I mean, they didn't need to. They just need to call it Toy Story Land.
The
I kind of
attraction there, it's going to be called March of the First Order or something. It's something to do with the First Order. I don't know. It's from the
Mhm.
newer movies, and it's based on virtual reality.
Yeah, aren't you like driving the Millennial Falcon? Millennium.
That's a different one. That was
Oh.
another one based.
That's
in
also
virtual reality.
VR.
Both of them are VR.
Well, I mean, I've
like,
looked at
they're
that
looking at
spot, and
that.
they don't have a lot of space. Like, it's one thing when you don't have a lot of space to do something, but like the Great Movie Ride show building is huge. Like,
Yep.
if you've ever looked at a blueprint for it, like the Great Movie Ride show building is large, and if they weren't using those large cars, they could do so much with it instead of just VR.
So I think they're going to do kind of a small roller coaster aspect of it. I don't know how they're going to do it in the Great Movie
Okay,
Ride.
because like
Those characters, I don't think will be animatronics though.
Okay, that actually just set a question in my mind when we thought about animatronic Donald.
Yeah,
But
I don't think so. But
anything else you guys want to talk about with Epcot? Like, they got over to like
well, it's
Ellen,
getting ready to
so,
get
I mean,
fixed,
It's
so
gonna be
hopefully it'll
overhauled.
be better.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for Mission Space to
waiting.
go away. I want Mission Space to go away.
Yes.
I also kind of want, I don't know. They need to revamp the land. I think they need to keep the land as it is, but they need to fix living with the land to make it more appealing.
yeah.
I think
because
it just looks really old right now. They just need to
it's
update
sad.
everything.
Also, like, that ride went down the shithole when they got rid of the actual human being that stood on the ride and made it a voiceover. When I was younger, there was literally a person that would stand and narrate, which felt very much more personal. Like, I liked that a lot better. Obviously, they're not going to close the land down for any significant amount of time because they would have to close Soarin', and then the line for Frozen would reach Mexico again. I'm just saying.
Yep.
Am I wrong?
Nope.
But like I know there's been a lot of speculation about Figment going away. What are your thoughts? I'm curious.
Well, I've went back because I've heard a lot of people. Everyone's always like, "Oh, the first ride was better. The first ride was better. The first ride was better." I agree. It was. It was a lot longer. It was like 15 minutes long. It was a dark ride, 15 minutes long. Actually, all attractions back in that time were all long. World of Motion was 16 minutes long. Horizons was almost as long. I mean, you could literally spend all day in Future World if you rode all the attractions. But with Figment, his original interpretation with Dreamfinder way back in the 80s and 90s when he was there with Dreamfinder was much more, it wasn't making fun of Figment, like being the rambunctious person he is in this.
I mean, they could still have that, but they just don't need to like make that the whole entire story.
He was a lovable character back then because he was just kind of the person that was helping everything happen. He was the one making your imagination go wild because the original attraction, it based imagination off of not just like an upside down house and all this weird stuff that's in the current attraction.
Also,
but it was basing like the imagination of writing things in books, of making film, of imaginary worlds, of everything like that. It was taking imagination to all of its limits and being practical with it.
Also, the problem that I have with the current iteration is kind of like the first version was like very much imagination and intelligence go hand in hand. The second version, which lasted only like 3 years because everyone hated it,
I watched
was
it.
Like,
it was very horrible.
Was like a giant middle finger at imagination. Imagination is stupid and science is the way to go. And also Figment wasn't in that version.
Nope.
And then the current version is like, screw science when you've got imagination. So like,
yeah, because even they even talk about it in the original soundtrack. Dreamfinder says, "What about science?" And then Figment starts talking about the different imaginative aspects of science, dreams and gyroscopes and magnetisms.
Yeah.
And then it goes off and off and on. He keeps going on, and Dreamfinder's like, "Wait, stop!" and just kind of slow him down because he gets caught up.
I've heard that
but it was very great.
The
It was a
rumor
great
that I
attraction.
have heard, and it flits in and out of credibility all the time, and I pray that it does not happen, is that they will remove Figment and they will make that ride an Inside Out experience.
I don't think it fits there.
And I get why they would do that in that pavilion. And I get sort of where the idea comes from, but I think that to remove, like, the reason, as stupid as the message was in that second iteration of Imagination, Journey into Imagination, the reason that it ultimately failed is because they got rid of Figment. Figment is lovable and he's cute, and he's even the freaking symbol of all of their, like, what's it called? Festival shit?
Yeah.
Like everything.
All of their festival
He's on
stuff
everything.
has Figment slapped right in the center of it.
They have hats
For
with his
Epcot, by
head
the way,
on it.
just
for
Epcot.
Epcot. Only Epcot does festivals. But, like, why would you get rid of the attraction that your festival mascot is found in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I first came to Epcot back in 2005 again, there was more Figment everywhere. He was all over Interventions. He was the character that Interventions was he was on a lot of the games in there. And then they had more games at the end of the attraction, I remember, and that featured him. And they've slowly started taking that stuff out. But I think they just need to make Figment more kid-oriented to make him work again, like a meet and greet with him. I mean, they have the costume.
No, they don't. Actually, I found this out from a PhotoPass worker at Epcot on Epcot 35. The 35th anniversary. So, I was waiting in line for that Figment pop that I ended up not being able to get because they freaking ran out. And this guy was telling me about the fact that, in fact, a couple of years ago, they discovered that the Figment costume was covered in maggots, and they threw it out.
Ew.
They need to build a new one if
Yeah, they could do it.
they recreate. I'm just saying, like, they have the costume as an argument that Disney gets a lot, but Disney does not have that costume.
Not
It's
anymore.
in a
It's gone.
dumpster decaying somewhere.
But, like-
Also, though, you know what I love about this ride, though? All the Easter eggs that are in there. Like, even the guy from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is mentioned. Like, what's his name? Dr. Sins.
Yeah.
Swarovski. No.
Ski. All I know it ends with
Something
ski.
ski.
Something
Yeah,
ski.
he was the original Honey, I Shrunk the Audience.
Yeah.
person.
I liked Honey, I Shrunk the Audience,
Yeah.
and I didn't like Captain EO.
Yeah.
I kind of like what they've got there now because, like, you don't get to see it in 3D that often. But what would be cool is if they took the giant, like, roster of all of the Disney animation and Pixar short films and they put them in a randomizer so you don't know what you're going to see.
That way you can go back and see it again.
That way
And
you
you're
can
like,
go back and it's
I've not seen
different every
these.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I love what they're showing now. They have Get a Horse, Piper, and Feast. Feast is one of my all-time favorite short films ever because I love it. But I would love to see something different every time I went because now it's like I go there and I see it every once in a while because, I don't see these on the big screen that much. But they should randomize it. It would be cool.
Yeah.
That's what I would change. It would be so easy. It would be so easy to change that.
Yeah, just put more on there. I mean, they have them. They would just have to program them with the 4D aspects like they do some of the shorts that they could do a little better. But
yeah, but like
you know.
none of those shorts were made for 4D, let's
No.
be honest.
not really.
So like and
Which
I
is a
don't-
good thing because then you don't have that weird aspect of 4D and 3D films where they
Right.
jump things at you and you're
and
like,
like you sometimes get sprayed with water. Like I don't want to actually get sprayed with water, guys. It's fine. Like I came to watch Piper because it's cute, not because I want to be sprayed with water when Piper ends up in the water. Like it's fine.
Yeah. Well, this is our longest episode ever, guys. If there's anything else you want to add, just do it now.
I'm good.
You good, Ayla? You have nothing left to talk about. Nothing left to add to the parks. Nothing to get rid of the parks.
Well, I will just say really fast. Just really because this is an idea that's bounced around between our friends a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going out of their way to build this giant show building for Guardians of the Galaxy. What if instead of that, they got rid of the theming on Rock and Roller Coaster and rethemed it to Guardians of the Galaxy?
Well, that's what I thought they
They're-
were gonna do.
They're
with
no,
that
they're
area.
literally building the same kind of ride as Rock and Roller Coaster. It's going to be a launching roller coaster. So just get rid of the theming on Rockin' and change the music because guess what everyone loves from Guardians of the Galaxy is the
The
music.
music.
It's great music. You could theme
You know,
it awesome.
you could still keep it to like the beginning sound thing with like Star-Lord introducing the audience to
Right.
like 80s music. Like, hey guys, you want to check out some awesome tunes?
Yeah,
Listen to
exactly.
this."
Exactly. That
Like,
would
it'd
be
be so
so awesome.
easy.
They could be doing like the warping from the second movie where they like jump between like and that'd be awesome. It would be so much fun.
Mhm.
And instead they're going to spend all this money and like I get that they wanted to get rid of Ellen, but they didn't need to build a roller coaster in a non-roller coaster show building.
Yeah, because
Just
that
saying.
building is massive.
Yeah.
It's like 150 some thousand square feet building. I mean, they could fit a lot of stuff in that building. And it's because most of the building at the back is really, really, really tall. So the theater is massive. You can make multiple levels of something.
Mm-hmm.
And to be surprised that they're essentially going to use it as a pre-show area and then mainly have the ride in a different area is interesting.
Yeah.
But it's also important to note that they're building a new building. They're not using something they already have because I've seen that rumor floating around.
Okay. Yeah. I knew this episode was going to be long, guys. Don't get me wrong. I knew we were going to have a lot to talk about. I also want to say before we end this episode that we don't mean any harm or to Disney by this. We don't want to like.
Oh no, we love Disney. We're
Yeah.
going to
Yeah,
still go
they're-
spend money
yeah.
there,
Yeah.
right? We're-
Oh, yeah.
This is just a perspective.
Zach's
from
not
the
quitting
guests,
Disney anytime
and-
soon.
No, I work there
This is
and I
just a
spend all my
perspective
paycheck
of the
there.
guests
So.
and what we think could be added to give it a different spin instead of what they're doing right now. But that's all for this conversation. I would like to thank Ayla and Zach for joining me on this
Thanks for having us.
conversation.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, and if you want to check us out, you can look us up on Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, kind of have a SoundCloud, working on an iTunes.
We're at Real Deal Disney on all of those things.
Yeah, so if you want to check us out, just look at Real Deal Disney into all of those places, and you'll be able to find us.
Our username is Real Deal Disney.
Yeah, Real
you shouldn't
Deal
have to look
Disney.
it up.
I mean, not look it up, but like just whatever, dude. You know how the internet
Find us
Whatever.
works.
at Real Deal Disney.
Yeah, you
there
know
we
how.
go.
That's what I could say.
Yes, find us at Real Deal Disney on Facebook, Instagram. No, not Instagram. Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr.
You just gave me a helpful hint for my poster now.
I've been saying that all along.
No,
anyway,
you said
I
it
said
differently.
okay, whatever.
We'll get into that conversation later.
Later.
But this has been Real Deal Disney. I'm your host, Michelle, and thank you guys for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.